It was the sound of the second shower that did it. I wasn't even supposed to be home. Flight back from Denver got canceled, storm system moving in. She thought I'd be stuck overnight. I hadn't texted, just called an Uber, walked through the door, suitcase in hand, planning to surprise her with takeout from that Korean place she liked. The house was quiet at first. Lights off in the living room. TV black. Not even music playing from the speaker she always left on like background noise. But then I heard it, water running. The sharp hiss of it, too clean and too late in the evening for a second round. She'd already had her post-work shower, I could tell. Her towel still hung over the sink, damp and limp, the scent of her citrus shampoo faint but lingering in the hallway. So why was there water running again 20 minutes later? I didn't move at first. Just stood there in the entryway, frozen, breathing slow and shallow. There was something in the air, something off. Like a missed detail in a photograph. The kind of mistake that scratches at your nerves before your mind can even name it. I put the takeout on the kitchen counter, quiet as a ghost, and walked toward the stairs. The water was coming from the upstairs guest bathroom. We never used that one. Hot water was finicky in there. Always took too long to heat up, so we just kept the door closed and pretended it didn't exist. But now, it was running, full blast. At the top of the stairs, I saw it. One of my gym towels balled up at the edge of the door, hastily shoved like a blockade, like someone didn't want steam leaking out into the hallway. That detail hit me like a brick, not the towel itself, but the color. Red. I only took the red towels to the gym. Always. Never used them at home. So who the hell had used it now? I leaned closer, listening. The water had stopped, but no footsteps followed. No creak of the door. Just silence. Long and unnatural. I turned slowly and walked back toward our bedroom. My heart beat like a slow drum in my ears. The door was open, just as I'd left it, but something small, something stupid, caught my eye on the dresser. Her phone. The screen was lit up with a faint glow. Notifications. She never left it out in the open. Not since 2 years ago, when she accidentally forgot to tell me about drinks with a coworker. Since then, she'd been careful, always face down, always with Do Not Disturb on, and always locked tight. But now, it was lying there, screen unlocked, as if it had been set down in a hurry. My hands didn't shake. I just walked over, picked it up, and glanced. One notification. A missed call from V. No photo. Just an initial. I tapped it. My heart already steel in my chest. The screen opened into a text thread. Most of the messages were gone, deleted. But one lingered, half-typed in the input bar, like someone had started to reply and never hit send. I miss. That's all it said. I put the phone down like it was a piece of broken glass, careful not to leave a trace. No need to go through everything. I already knew. My mind wasn't asking questions. It was building timelines, laying down pieces, calibrating the data. The red towel. The second shower. The open phone. The contact labeled V. The absolute silence from the bathroom. And then the final, absurd detail. Her perfume bottle. Moved slightly to the left. It always sat parallel to the mirror. She was obsessive about that kind of thing. But now it was skewed. Off-center. Someone had rushed to get ready. I walked back down the hall, slow and deliberate, and leaned my ear against the guest bathroom door. Nothing. No breathing. No movement. But I waited. 30 seconds. A minute. Still nothing. And that told me everything I needed to know. Whoever was in there wasn't trying to leave. I turned and went back downstairs, calm and measured, grabbed a beer from the fridge, sat down at the kitchen island, and waited. The ticking of the wall clock was the only sound. I stared at the hallway, waiting for her to come down, wrapped in her usual post-shower robe, pretending nothing had happened. I didn't feel rage. Not yet. Just that cold, quiet weight in my stomach. Like when you realize a wound you thought was healing is actually infected deep underneath. This wasn't sudden. This wasn't accidental. This had been brewing in the background, just out of sight, while I was too focused on rebuilding us. I'd been buying prenatal vitamins. She'd been hiding V. The sound of her feet descending the stairs finally came, light and careful. She paused halfway, saw me sitting at the counter, and froze. Her face was blank, but her eyes, those gave her away. Wide, flickering, searching. She opened her mouth like she wanted to say something, but nothing came out. Just a breath, too shallow to be real. I took a sip of my beer and gave her a small nod. "You're home early," she said, voice brittle. I smiled. Just a little. "Yeah," I said. I figured it was time. For a while, everything felt like it was supposed to. We had our routines. Saturday mornings with coffee and crossword puzzles. Grocery trips together where she always added some weird new plant-based milk into the cart, like it was a science experiment. Dinner on the patio when the weather cooperated. Soft music, low laughter, just us. She still kissed me goodnight. Still laughed at my stupid jokes. Still slid her feet under my legs on the couch like she always did when she was cold. We looked like a couple in rhythm, in sync, comfortable. But it was that very comfort that started to feel curated. Like I was watching a play I'd already memorized, where the lines were the same, but the delivery had shifted, just enough to make the whole thing feel off. She started talking about energy. Not the electric bill, not her workout stamina. Emotional energy, she said. I'm just trying to protect my emotional energy lately. That phrase landed weird. Like a polite way of telling someone to stay the hell out of your way. I asked her what she meant, and she smiled like I was sweet but slow. It's nothing bad. I'm just learning to prioritize myself. I'm reading this book. She never told me the title. I didn't press. I wanted to be the supportive husband, this safe place, like all those therapy articles said. So I nodded, told her I was glad she was taking care of herself. And I was, at first. Then came the calendar changes. She used to sync everything on the shared Google Calendar. Work meetings, girls' nights, yoga classes. Now, half the entries were vague or missing. I'd see evening class pop up on a Thursday, and when I asked what it was, she'd wave it off. Just a mindfulness workshop. Nothing exciting. She said that word a lot now, mindfulness. Like it was a shield. I never saw the place she claimed to be going. Never got an invite. She'd come home smelling faintly different. Not perfume, not cologne, just not her. Like laundry that had been in someone else's house. Like borrowed air. And she was always upbeat after, energized, bright-eyed. Too bright. She'd launch into monologues about wanting to go on a solo retreat one day, or take a pottery class in a different city, or maybe even live somewhere new, just to try it. I used to be part of those kinds of dreams. Now she said, I instead of we. One night, she came home later than usual, buzzing with excitement. She was talking fast, hands moving like she was conducting an invisible orchestra. There's this new co-worker, she said, and he's really into meditation and hiking. He told me about this spot an hour out of town. I might check it out this weekend, clear my head. She said it so casually, like mentioning a new cafe. I nodded, swallowed the tightness rising in my throat. You want me to come? I asked, pretending to sound light. She hesitated, just long enough to make the air feel sharp. I think I need to do this one alone. You understand, right? I said I did. I didn't. Not really. Her phone started staying face down again. She changed her lock screen from a photo of us to some abstract quote in cursive text, something about growth being uncomfortable. Her passwords got changed. One night, I tried to airdrop her a photo we took at the farmer's market, but her name didn't pop up. Her Bluetooth was off. Or maybe her device name had changed. Either way, it felt like a wall. She stopped asking me to join her on errands. Even the small things, like picking up Thai food or getting the car washed. She said she was trying to be more independent. But independence didn't explain the gym bag I found in the trunk of her car one morning, half-zipped, with clothes she never wore at our gym, and a second pair of sneakers she'd never shown me. The receipt in the side pocket was from a gas station I didn't recognize, an hour out of town, time-stamped on a night. She said she was just journaling in bed early. I stared at that receipt for a long time, folded it carefully, and put it back exactly where I found it. I didn't bring it up. I couldn't, not yet. I wasn't ready to hear the lie spoken out loud. The final crack came quietly. I was scrolling Instagram one night and noticed her profile photo was gone. Blank. I tapped it. User not found. I checked from a different account. There it was. Her profile, fully active, stories updated, new photos I hadn't seen, filtered selfies, quotes about strength, a post from that hike she took. The one she told me was solo. There was someone else's shadow in the photo. Broad-shouldered. Male. Cropped, but not enough. She hadn't blocked me. She'd restricted me. That difference hit harder than a block. It wasn't about pushing me away. It was about hiding something, while pretending everything was fine. Still, I didn't explode. I didn't accuse. I told myself maybe she was confused, overwhelmed. Maybe she needed space to sort things out. I clung to the version of her who used to reach for me in her sleep, who used to leave little notes in my lunchbox when I had a stressful week. I clung to that smile, even as it became something she offered to the world but no longer to me. I kept making coffee for two. I kept setting her favorite mug on the counter every morning. I kept pretending we were okay because I needed more time. Not to fix it, not to win her back, but to watch, to understand, and to plan. Because beneath the denial, under the quiet ache of fading trust, a colder part of me had already woken up. And it was waiting. It was a Tuesday. Nothing special, nothing dramatic. She said she had a late meeting downtown, some kind of strategy session followed by drinks with the team. I didn't argue. I even offered to drive her, knowing she'd refuse. She smiled that careful smile again, the one that didn't quite reach her eyes anymore, and said she'd Uber. I watched her walk out the door in that fitted beige blazer she only wore for important meetings. Hair down, light makeup, just enough to look effortlessly polished. I waited exactly 40 minutes after she left before I opened the drawer beneath the coffee table and pulled out the small GPS tracker I'd bought 3 weeks ago. She never noticed it. Why would she? It was small, magnetic, slipped right under the rear bumper of her car like a spider in the dark. I pulled up the app on my phone and watched the blue dot move. It wasn't heading downtown. It veered off at the exit before the city line. For a moment, I told myself it could still make sense. Maybe they were meeting at a different office. Maybe she was picking something up first. I zoomed in. The car slowed near a strip mall, then stopped. Not at an office. Not a spa. Not even a restaurant. A rundown motel with flickering neon lights and a 2.3-star rating on Google. The kind with weekly rates and a front desk behind bulletproof glass. I sat there for a full 10 minutes without moving. The house around me was silent, warm, perfectly lit, like the world was trying to pretend everything was fine. But my body had gone still, cold from the inside out. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't catch. I just stared at that blinking dot, the one that told the truth she'd been too cowardly to speak. I watched it stay motionless, parked in that same spot. Room 108, probably. Maybe 112. I imagined her laugh behind thin walls, the way she always laughed a little too loud when she was nervous. I imagined her shoes by the door, her hair pinned up, her voice dropping into that soft, sugary tone she used to use with me. And suddenly, every night she came home tired, every "I just need space" conversation, every unexplained smile clicked into place like jagged teeth on a gear. She wasn't drifting away. She'd already left. I just hadn't caught up to the fact yet. Still, I didn't react. Didn't text. Didn't call. I stood, went to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water, drank it slowly. My mind was no longer in pain, it was in motion. Cold, clinical, efficient. This wasn't heartbreak. This was inventory. Damage control. Strategy. I moved through the house like I was seeing it for the first time. Not as a home, but as a crime scene. Her shoes by the door. Her jacket draped on the coat rack. The bookshelf she insisted we alphabetize together. Every inch of it suddenly felt foreign, artificial, like a stage set we constructed together but only I still lived in. I walked into the bedroom and opened her nightstand. The charger cord was gone, she took it with her. The drawer held a book on emotional boundaries, a half-used perfume roller I'd never smelled on her before, and a folded receipt for a candle shop from 2 weekends ago, the one she said she spent with her sister. The name on the receipt wasn't hers. It was a man's. He paid. She just picked the scent. I sat down on the bed and opened her laptop. She rarely used it now, always on her phone, always texting with the screen tilted away. But the laptop was still synced to her cloud account. Messages appeared. Not many, but enough. One in particular. No name, just an emoji and the contact name 2 hearts, side by side. The last message read, "I can still taste you." Sent an hour before she walked out the door. No context. No shame. I didn't scream. I didn't cry. I didn't break anything. I just felt something ancient and precise click into place in my chest. Like a blade settling into its sheath. Like a hand gripping the last puzzle piece. I closed the laptop, walked to my closet, and pulled down the box I'd labeled tax stuff. Inside was everything she never thought I'd keep, copies of our joint accounts, a spare key she thought she lost, backup passwords, even the original prenup she never read carefully. I took it all out, spread it across the desk, and began sorting. Names. Dates. Numbers. She thought she was 2 steps ahead. She had no idea I'd already started counting every lie, logging every shift, noting every time her mouth said one thing while her body said another. When she came home hours later, I was already in bed, pretending to be half asleep. She smelled like hotel soap and mint gum. She kissed my forehead soft, tentative. I didn't flinch. Just smiled and mumbled, "Everything okay?" She said yes. That same lie again. That word she'd worn out like cheap leather. I whispered goodnight and closed my eyes. But in my mind, I was already dismantling her world piece by piece. Quietly, carefully, with precision. Because now, I wasn't suspicious anymore. I wasn't scared or hurt. I was ready. And she would never see it coming. The moment I accepted the truth, everything about the game changed. I stopped being her husband and started being her shadow. No accusations, no confrontations. Just quiet, methodical data collection. She was still smiling in the mornings, still pretending to be tired from long meetings, still crawling into bed with sighs and lukewarm touches. I let her. I gave her every inch of rope she thought she needed, and I watched her wrap it tighter around her own neck. The first thing I did was tag her best friend's car. Not hers, too obvious, too risky. But her best friend, Alina, the one she claimed was her confidant, her safe person, the one she ran to when she needed to unpack things emotionally, that was the link. If there were secrets being kept, Alina was either helping or watching in silence. So I slipped a tracker under her back bumper one afternoon while they were inside a yoga studio, and by the end of the week, I knew every place she went that my wife didn't mention. A wine bar downtown, a second apartment complex across the city, and once, a stop at a custom jewelry shop, 10 minutes in, 20 minutes out. 2 days later, a new necklace appeared around my wife's neck, thin and discreet, like it was meant to go unnoticed. It wasn't. I also checked our financials, not just the bank account she knew I monitored, but the secondary account she thought I forgot we'd opened years ago. It was still active, still linked. She'd started making regular Venmo transfers, small amounts, always to the same recipient. A username I didn't recognize, but it wasn't hard to trace. Cross-referenced it through a dummy account, and it belonged to a man named Vincent L. No social media, no digital footprint, just a LinkedIn with one photo and a job at some startup 3 cities away. A startup she once mentioned in passing said her company was collaborating on a mental wellness project. The puzzle pieces were snapping into place, one by one. Still, I played the devoted husband. I cooked dinner, asked her about her day. She lied effortlessly, fluidly, but her eyes blinked just a little too fast when I asked about that client from out of town. She told me the project was wrapping up. I nodded, smiled, offered to take her out to celebrate. She declined, said she was exhausted. I said I understood. The next morning, I left early, told her I had a team meeting uptown. I didn't. I parked 2 blocks from her office and waited. She didn't show up. Not that morning. Not that afternoon. She told me it was an all-day workshop. I already knew the address she was actually at, thanks to the tracker still beneath her car. A boutique Airbnb, styled like a Scandinavian cabin, overpriced and tucked in a gentrified corner of the city. I drove by slow, unseen. Her car was parked out front. Curtains closed. I didn't go in. I didn't even stop. I just noted the time, the date, the license plate of the silver motorcycle parked out back. That night, I sent her a text, "Hope your meeting went well. Leftovers in the fridge." She replied with a heart emoji. I smiled at the screen and turned it off. Then I moved onto the digital trail. I installed a keystroke logger on her old laptop, nothing malicious, just enough to capture passwords when she opened her social media accounts. I didn't even need to access them, just watch the patterns. Late-night logins to an Instagram account I didn't follow. Deleted messages. A second Snapchat she used only when she left the house. I mirrored her rhythm, mapped her lies, cataloged the gaps between what she said and what I could prove. I created a spreadsheet, dates, times, discrepancies. I cross-checked her menstrual tracking app. Yes, she'd given me the password once, months ago, said it helped us time things while trying to conceive. She hadn't used it for that. Instead, she logged intimate moments under different codes, some tagged, some left blank. The pattern was unmistakable. I even tested her. Once, I casually asked what she thought about taking a trip next month, just us, like we used to. Her face twitched for a fraction of a second before she said yes. But she'd already blocked out those dates in her planner under a different color. One reserved for personal time. That color now meant someone else. I waited another week before setting the final trap. I told her I'd be gone for 2 days, fake conference, out of state. She smiled, kissed me like she used to, said she'd miss me. I kissed her back, told her to rest. Then I waited 3 hours and came back. Parked a few streets away, watched the house. Lights off. Curtains closed. But the faint glow of her bedroom lamp flickered on for just a second, followed by shadows. Two. One standing. One kneeling. I didn't need to see faces. I already knew. I didn't knock. I didn't rage. I walked away, slow, silent, already rewriting the map in my head. Because now I had everything I needed. And she still thought I was in another state, believing her story, carrying the weight of her smile like a fool. But I wasn't a fool anymore. I was the storm she hadn't noticed yet. It was her company's end-of-quarter celebration, an upscale mixer at a rooftop bar, all glass and gold, suspended 20 floors above the city. She invited me with that same mechanical enthusiasm she'd been using for weeks. It'd mean a lot if you came, she said, brushing lint off my shoulder, not meeting my eyes. I agreed, of course. Played the devoted husband, suited up, smiled in all the right places. I even brought her favorite bourbon as a gift for her boss. The night air was sharp and clean, lights from the skyline blinking like silent witnesses. People mingled with cocktails and practiced laughter. She floated between groups like smoke, touching arms, flashing that curated smile, playing the charming professional. For most of the night, I watched her from a distance. Tracked the pattern of her glances, where her eyes paused too long, who she touched a second too intimately. And then I saw him. Vincent. Lean, polished, not especially handsome, but confident in the way parasites often are when they think they've found a permanent host. He showed up late, walked straight to the bar, and didn't acknowledge her for 10 minutes. Too calculated to be accidental. But her eyes snapped to him the second he entered, like magnets realigning. I let the tension build. Let her think she was safe in the crowd. Then, as the speeches were winding down, I approached her in front of the floor-to-ceiling windows. She looked startled for half a second, then put on that soft, loving face, the one she used when she was pretending to still be mine. I handed her a drink. You left this in the car, I said. She blinked, confused. It wasn't her drink, it was mine. Bourbon. Neat. But I wasn't offering it to her. I was buying time. A moment later, the projector behind the makeshift podium flickered to life. Everyone turned to look, expecting a highlight reel of company milestones. Instead, it was footage from a parking garage camera, grainy, time-stamped, brutal in its stillness. Her car. Room 108. Her silhouette stepping out, hair tied up, laughing. Vincent stepping out after her, hand grazing her lower back. The door closing behind them. Gasps filled the room like a sudden change in air pressure. Her hand shot up toward the screen in a pathetic, instinctive attempt to block it. Too late. What the fuck is that? Someone whispered. She turned toward me, face pale, lips parted. It's not, she began, but I raised one hand slowly. The silence I offered her was heavier than a shout. She stuttered into the void I left for her, desperate to fill it. We weren't. I mean, yes, we met there, but it wasn't like that. It's not what you think. I tilted my head. Said nothing. It was a mistake, she said next, louder, trying to control the narrative now that the damage was spreading. It was a moment. One night. 1 night? 2 weeks in a row? I asked, my voice even. I hadn't spoken above a whisper. Still, everyone heard it. Her expression cracked. I was lonely. You were always so distant. You stopped looking at me like I mattered. There it was. The pivot. From guilt to blame. You think I wanted this? She snapped, eyes wet now. You think I wanted to lie to you? You never asked me how I was doing. You just went through the motions. We were already broken. I took a slow breath, leaned closer so only she could hear the next words. No, I said, you broke it. I just stopped fixing it. Her face collapsed in on itself. Tears now. Real ones, maybe. But too late. Vincent had disappeared somewhere during the chaos, leaving her to crash alone. Her boss stood frozen near the edge of the crowd, horrified. Co-workers whispered in tight circles. One woman glanced at me and mouthed, I'm so sorry. I nodded politely. Then I handed my wife, soon-to-be ex, a manila envelope. What is this? She asked, voice trembling. Freedom, I said. And a very detailed bill. Inside were the divorce papers. Annotated. Strategically timed. My name only on the house. The joint savings drained and transferred months ago to a new account in my name. Evidence compiled, neatly indexed. A QR code on the back led to a private online folder, photos, video stills, transcripts of messages she thought were deleted. I didn't wait for her to respond. I didn't need to hear another word. I turned and walked away, leaving her standing in front of the skyline she thought she'd rise into, now reflected back in glass as the backdrop to her destruction. She showed up 2 days later. No warning, no call, just the sharp rattle of keys in the door like she still lived here, like everything hadn't just detonated in front of 24 coworkers and half her professional network. I was sitting at the kitchen table, sipping coffee, calm as ever. She walked in with wild eyes and trembling hands, makeup smeared like she'd either cried or didn't bother checking the mirror, maybe both. "You can't just do that," she started, voice already too loud, already cracking. "You humiliated me. In front of my boss. In front of my team." I didn't look up. Just took another sip and said, "You humiliated yourself." She froze, like the weight of that line hit somewhere deep she wasn't ready for. Then came the shift. "You smothered me," she snapped. "You act like you're so perfect, but you never once made me feel alive. You were robotic. Predictable. You wanted routine. I wanted passion." I looked up then, just enough to meet her eyes, flat and unblinking. "So you crawled into a hotel bed with someone who doesn't know your middle name?" Her face twitched. "You think this is all my fault? Maybe if you'd paid attention, if you'd made me feel like a woman instead of a roommate, this never would have happened." I stood slowly, walked past her to the sink, rinsed my mug. "You were a woman. A woman with a husband who didn't cheat, didn't lie, didn't disappear into someone else's bed when things got hard." Her mouth opened, then closed again. No retort, just rage swirling in her eyes. "You're so cold," she hissed, the accusation like venom. "You always were. It's why I couldn't breathe. You strangled the joy out of this marriage." I turned and faced her fully now, calm and composed, arms loose at my sides. "No. I gave you structure. Stability. A place to come home to when the world burned. You wanted fireworks, not foundation. You mistook comfort for confinement." Her face turned red, blotchy. "This wouldn't have happened if you were a real man." She spat the words like a final card thrown down at the table. I just stared at her, steady. A real man? A real man doesn't need to scream to be heard. A real man doesn't need to beg for loyalty. A real man doesn't shatter his own house to make a fire that impresses strangers. Her breath hitched. She looked like she was about to cry, or scream, or collapse. She couldn't decide. "I was lost," she whispered now, the first crack in her voice that sounded honest. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I thought you didn't love me anymore." I walked past her, opened the front door, and gestured toward the driveway. "You thought wrong." Her eyes darted around the house like she was seeing it for the last time, the framed photos still on the wall, the scent of coffee, the silence that used to be filled with lazy Sunday mornings. She took a step toward me, desperate now. "Please, can we just talk? Just once. Really talk. Without all the noise." I nodded slightly. "We're talking. You just don't like what you're hearing." She flinched like the words cut deeper than any scream could have. "So that's it? You're just done?" I shrugged. "You ended it. I'm just finally accepting it." She laughed then sharp, bitter, defensive. "You think you've won, huh? You think this makes you powerful? Cold revenge and silence?" I smiled faintly. "No, not revenge. Just truth. And peace. Two things you never respected." Her composure broke entirely. She threw her purse down, hands in her hair, pacing like a caged animal. "You're impossible. You've always been impossible to reach. It's like trying to love a brick wall." I leaned against the doorframe, casual, unmoved. "No, you just never tried. You wanted chaos. You wanted someone who made you feel like a teenager again. I gave you adulthood, and you spit on it." She walked up to me, close enough I could smell the fear under the perfume, her voice low and shaking. "So what now? You just erase me." I met her stare without flinching. "You erased yourself. I'm just cleaning up the outline." She stared at me for a long time, tears brimming but not falling, anger seething under the surface, and for the first time, I saw it. She was terrified. Not of being alone, not of losing me, but of the fact that I no longer cared, that her words didn't land, that her tantrums, her guilt trips, her desperate swings at my dignity couldn't touch me. I had already buried the version of her I loved, grieved it, and moved on. She was screaming into a void that no longer echoed back. That was what broke her. Not betrayal, not exposure, but irrelevance. The day after she stormed out, I started putting everything into motion. Not in anger. There was no heat left in me. Only clarity. I'd already spent months gathering what I needed, but now it was time to activate it. I began with the financials. The joint accounts were already ghosted, moved strategically into new accounts under my name alone, the ones she'd forgotten we had from when we refinanced the house. I pulled every dollar from the safety net we built together and rerouted it. The mortgage was already refinanced months prior. With her name quietly removed during a document update, she never questioned. She'd been too busy with late-night yoga classes and fabricated soul-searching retreats to bother reading the fine print. The house was mine. The utilities? Transferred. Credit cards? Canceled and replaced. I let her keep the one in her name, but called the issuer and removed myself as a co-signer. When the next bill hit, she'd be on her own. The car? Leased under my name. I reported it as no longer in authorized use. It would be towed within the week, probably while she was sleeping off another lie in someone else's bed. I didn't say a word, just smiled when she sent passive-aggressive texts asking if I remembered to pay the water bill. Of course, I'd reply. I take care of everything. And I did, including the legal filings. I met with my lawyer and dropped the bomb. Divorce papers, airtight prenup enforcement, and a petition for asset protection due to infidelity. I had receipts, screenshots, video, GPS logs, messages pulled from her cloud that she didn't know was still linked. All cataloged, all time-stamped. My lawyer's eyes widened when I slid the folders across the table. She's not walking away from this with much, he muttered. No, I said. She already walked away from everything. I'm just making it official. I had him draft a custody request, full, permanent. She'd never even held down a routine. I had photos of her passed out on the couch after girls' nights, wine bottles lining the counter, and an entire calendar of weekends she claimed to be with family, only to be tracked across the city with another man. If she wanted to fight it, I'd bury her in documentation. Then came the social piece. I crafted one email, short and composed, and sent it to her parents. No vitriol, no accusations, just a note. I thought you should see this before you hear it from someone else. Attached was a folder of evidence, nothing graphic, just enough to remove plausible deniability. Her mother replied within an hour. I'm so sorry, she wrote. We had no idea. We're ashamed of her. I didn't respond. I didn't need to. I sent a similar message to her boss. Again, no theatrics. Just a formal email flagging inappropriate relationships with an external partner that may violate ethical clauses, with attachments and timestamps. I never asked for her to be fired. I just gave HR a file they couldn't ignore. Her workplace had built its image around integrity and empowerment. She was now the weakest link in a brand that couldn't afford scandals. Her work laptop was remotely locked 2 days later. She hadn't even seen it coming. I also reached out to her closest circle, the friends she used as alibis, the ones she name-dropped when she claimed to be at book clubs or group therapy sessions. Each got a private message. I've been quiet for a while out of respect, but I thought you deserved the truth. I didn't ask for sides. I just showed them how many times she'd used their names to cover up motel rendezvous and out-of-town escapes. Some unfollowed her. Some blocked her. One sent me an apology. The rest fell silent. Silence was good. It meant they saw her now. The illusion had cracked. I even went as far as reaching out to a recruiter she once ghosted during her growth phase, sent them her updated resume, the one I found on our shared drive. She'd never mentioned applying, but she hadn't deleted it either. Just left it there, half-polished, like a dream she didn't think I noticed. I made sure the recruiter knew she was exploring options again, and that her current role was in jeopardy due to conduct. I didn't sabotage her. I just told the truth at the perfect time. By the end of the week, her world was bleeding from 20 quiet cuts. No explosions, no fights, just gravity dragging everything down faster than she could patch it up. And she still thought there was room for reconciliation. That was the beauty of it. She believed the pain was just beginning. She had no idea she was already past the point of no return. Every time she texted, trying to sound casual, "Can we talk? Have you eaten? Are you okay?" I replied like nothing was wrong. Because to me, nothing was. I wasn't healing. I was erasing. I was resetting the field. And when the final strike came, when the envelope arrived with the formal notice and the list of severed accounts, titles, and responsibilities, she wouldn't understand how it all happened so fast. But I would, because I'd been orchestrating it from the shadows for weeks. And by the time she reached out to grab hold of anything, money, stability, reputation, she'd find her hands grasping smoke. She invited me to her sister's engagement party as if nothing had happened. As if the life we built hadn't been rotting beneath our feet while she danced through her lies in someone else's bed. I said yes, of course. Smiled. Let her think the silence between us meant reconciliation, not preparation. She held my arm when we walked in, dressed in a deep green dress that once would have made my heart stop. Now, it looked like a costume. A final performance before the curtain dropped. Her entire family was there: parents, cousins, friends, people she hadn't seen in years. She was glowing when we entered, her smile stretched too wide, her laugh too frequent, as if she could will everything back to normal through charm alone. But there was tension in the air, the kind you can't fake your way through. Her mother avoided her eyes. Her father offered a nod instead of a hug. Even her sister, normally clingy, adoring, barely acknowledged her. I watched her try to recalibrate, to adjust her approach. She laughed louder, hugged harder, tried to reclaim control. It didn't work. And then came the moment she couldn't talk her way out of. A slideshow started, just a cute family gesture, a tradition at their events. Photos from childhood, teen years, adult milestones. She stood close to me, giggling as each slide passed. Then one image lingered just a moment too long, her, outside a motel, hair tied up, holding her shoes in one hand, sunglasses on, but unmistakably her. Alone, but not really. The next image, Vincent, the same timestamp, leaning against her car. Another, a cropped message thread, her words explicit, unmistakable. The room went dead silent. Her smile froze mid-laugh, eyes widening as she turned toward the screen like it had betrayed her. But it hadn't. I had. Quietly. Surgically. One of her cousins, the quiet one who worked in IT, had helped me set it up. No warning. No announcement. Just truth, projected 20 feet wide, for everyone to see. Who did this? She whispered, spinning toward me, eyes glassy. I said nothing. Just took a sip of champagne. She looked around for allies, scanning faces that once adored her. Her sister was crying. Her father looked away. Her mother sat stone-faced. Vincent wasn't there. I made sure of that. I'd sent him the full folder 2 nights ago with a simple subject line, just in case she told you I didn't know. He replied with a single sentence, I didn't know she was married. He ghosted her immediately. Blocked her. Disappeared. Now she stood alone, surrounded by people who only days ago believed in her. It's fake, she said too loudly. This is fake. He did this. He's lying. Her voice cracked on the last word. He's sick. He's trying to destroy me. Still, I said nothing. Just stared at her the way a surgeon looks at a tumor before removal. She turned to her mother. Mom, you know me. Tell them this isn't me. Her mother didn't even blink. You made this bed, she said quietly. We just didn't know how dirty it was until now. Her breath caught. She turned toward the crowd, toward me, toward anyone who would listen. You all think I'm the villain? Her voice was rising now, desperate. You think I just woke up one day and became this? No. He made me like this. He was cold. He didn't love me. He just tolerated me. I tilted my head slightly, still silent. Watching. Letting her unravel. He stopped seeing me. He stopped touching me. I felt invisible. She screamed, and the room flinched. Her sister stepped forward finally, voice trembling. That doesn't give you the right to lie to all of us. To destroy your marriage. You could have left. But you stayed. And you cheated. Repeatedly. Her face crumbled. She looked back at me one last time, expecting something, anger, hate, maybe even a flicker of forgiveness. But I was empty. She saw it then. That nothing she said would save her. That the man who once held her through panic attacks and late-night doubts now looked at her like a stranger. Please, she whispered, just loud enough for me. Say something. I leaned in slightly, voice low. You don't matter anymore. She broke. Fully. Shoulders shaking, tears streaking down the foundation she layered on to hide the rot. She dropped to a chair and buried her face in her hands. And I just stood there, calm, unmoved, watching her fall apart in the ruins of the lie she built. No anger. No satisfaction. Just the cold, clean silence of justice delivered. It happened 3 days after the engagement party, at a backyard barbecue her parents had been planning for months. A final family gathering before her sister moved across the country. She showed up late, of course, acting like nothing had happened. Wearing sunglasses, hair pinned, forcing small talk with anyone who would make eye contact. But most didn't. The air was tense, buzzing with unsaid things, tight smiles and half-hearted nods. Her parents kept their distance. Her sister didn't even greet her. I was already there, helping set up tables, laughing with her uncle, playing it cool. But inside, the fire was building, and I could feel her watching me, waiting for an opening. It came after lunch, as people started circling the grill again, drinks in hand, light music playing in the background. She walked over, loud enough for others to hear. Can we talk? Privately. I didn't move. Anything you've got to say it now. Her face twitched. Seriously, she hissed. You're going to do this here? You mean like you did it at that motel? Or in your messages? Or in front of the entire company? I said louder, eyes locked on hers. A few heads turned. Conversations dipped. She stepped closer. You don't get to act like a victim now. You think you're so righteous? You think you've never made mistakes? Her voice rose, brittle and defensive. I laughed once, low and sharp. Mistakes are forgetting an anniversary. Mistakes are leaving the toilet seat up. You cheated. Repeatedly. You lied with a straight face for months. Don't you dare try to scale that down to a mistake. Her hands clenched into fists. I was unhappy. You didn't see me. You were always just there. Like a ghost. Boring. Predictable. I nodded slowly. I was boring because I was consistent. I was predictable because I was loyal. I gave you peace, and you burned it because it wasn't loud enough to feed your ego. Gasps from the left. Her father stood from his chair. Her cousin pulled out a phone, slowly, pretending to check messages, but already filming. You think this is all me? She screamed now, eyes darting wildly. You're such a manipulator. You planned all of this. You waited for the perfect moment to humiliate me. No. I snapped, stepping closer. You did that all by yourself. I just handed you the mirror. She was shaking now, lips trembling, face red. You don't know what it's like to feel invisible. To wonder every day if the person lying next to you even notices you anymore. I stepped in, close enough that she could hear the raw truth in my voice. You weren't invisible. You were adored. You were trusted. You were defended when people warned me you were drifting. I chose you. Over and over. Even when you stopped choosing me. And you threw it all away for attention from someone who couldn't even look you in the eye after he got what he wanted. Her face twisted. That's not true. He cared about me. From the corner of the yard, someone laughed. Her best friend, ex-best friend now, shaking her head. No, he didn't, she said flatly. He called you a phase. He told his roommate you were clingy and married. I saw the texts. That shattered her. Her mouth opened, then snapped shut. She looked at her father, desperate. Dad, please, you know me. He shook his head. I thought I did. Her mother looked away, wiping her eyes. You've embarrassed us. You've embarrassed yourself. Why are you all doing this to me? She wailed. He's not innocent. He's controlling and cold. And no. I cut in, louder than I'd intended. Don't twist this. You cheated. You lied. You dragged people into your web, used your friends, gaslit your family, and now you want to rewrite the narrative because you don't like the ending. But you wrote this story, word by word. She took a step back, looking around at the crowd. No one was defending her. No one was nodding. No one was even pretending anymore. The silence was brutal. I looked at her one last time. You always said you wanted to feel something real. Congratulations. This is it. Then I turned, walked past the folding chairs, the plastic cups, the stunned faces. I heard her sob behind me, a choked, broken sound that might have cut me in another life. But not now. Now it meant nothing. I didn't flinch. I didn't turn around. I walked straight out the gate and into the quiet, leaving her behind in the ruins she built with her own hands. 6 months later, she was gone from the city. Quietly. No grand departure, no farewell post, no drama. She just vanished from the places we used to exist in. Word got around fast after the fallout. Her company didn't fire her outright. They just restructured, and her position evaporated. HR didn't fight her resignation. They didn't need to. Her boss stopped responding to emails. Her mentor, the one who used to sing her praises on LinkedIn, removed all public endorsements. Her inbox turned into an echo chamber. The friends she used as cover? Gone. Not blocked, just silent. That cruel kind of silence that screams louder than hate. Even Alina, her supposed ride or die, distanced herself. She posted cryptic quotes about betrayal and accountability the week after the engagement party imploded. People noticed. Screenshots circulated. And the affair partner? Vincent? He disappeared faster than a shadow at noon. Left the city, deleted his socials, scrubbed the digital trail. She tried reaching out to him. How do I know? Because she left the messages open on her backup phone when she came crawling back. I didn't respond then. I just watched her world shrink. She moved into a tiny apartment 3 towns over, in a complex that still had carpeted floors and coin-operated laundry. Took a job at some health foods warehouse. No benefits, no stability, just boxes and silence. She posted a few vague Instagram stories about starting over and the healing journey, but the likes dropped off quickly. People don't root for villains once the credits roll. The last time I saw her face to face, she was standing on my porch, 6 pounds thinner, makeup caked over the damage, hands trembling around a coffee she brought like that would change anything. "I miss you," she said, her voice nothing like the one I used to know. "I've been thinking about everything. And I'm sorry." I said nothing, just leaned against the frame, letting her flail in the space between us. I lost myself. I know I did. I made horrible choices. I was scared. I was lonely. Her eyes pleaded. "You know me better than anyone. We could still fix this. Please, just give me one chance to prove I'm not that woman anymore." I tilted my head slightly. "You're right. I don't know that woman." Her eyes widened with hope, just for a breath. Then I finished. "I knew my wife. You're someone else." Her shoulders collapsed. "Don't say that. Please, don't say that." "I'm not saying anything you didn't write yourself," I said calmly. "You just thought I wouldn't read the ending." She started crying. Not the loud, performative kind, just quiet, hopeless sobs that barely escaped her throat. "I still love you," she whispered. "Strange," I replied. "I don't even remember your name anymore." She stood there for a moment longer, like the air might shift, like the ground might forgive her. It didn't. I closed the door slowly. Didn't slam it. Just sealed it. Locked it. Moved on. She hasn't come back since. Once in a while, I get a text from an unknown number. Her, still trying, still sending memories and what-if scenarios. I don't reply. I don't need to. She's already living the consequence. Not punishment. Just reality. She chose short-term flattery over long-term devotion. She chose secrets over stability. And now she wakes up every morning without the man who once loved her enough to build a life around her. All that's left is a shadow of a woman looking into a mirror and seeing someone she can't recognize. Me? I sleep just fine. And if she ever asks herself what destroyed her, she won't be able to say it was me. It was her reflection. So tell me, what would you have done if it was your wife?